Hey guys, I know this may seem like really obvious to all of us players, but Genshin put this in their latest survey, which means they aren't really sure of the answers. So that's why I'm putting this video out there for them. So the relevant bit as to what they put in the survey is they were kind of hinting at like, why aren't people playing things like Kokomi and Suijin? Why aren't we rolling on them? Why aren't we using them? And like I said, that seems really obvious to us players. So let's answer this question for them. And you guys could contribute by putting your own input in the comments below and stuff. Anyway, Genshin, there's a few reasons why most of us don't wish or play healers. As well as in this video, I'm going to give you a few tips as how you can address this problem. So my first point is most of the harder content in the game is solely about how much damage you can do as fast as you can possibly do it. And therefore, nobody really cares about their health. They're just gonna find the teammates that can buff their main DPS as much as possible, or all field DPSs, or all field res shredders, or even better yet, a mix of those, which is kind of a grave you dug for yourself, Genshin. Because with characters like Escoffier and Shallonen and so on, those who can res shred and buff and heal or shield or all field DPS at the very same time, it makes it pretty hard to compete for those slots in that team. My next point is I assume most players want an on-field DPSer, and characters like Suijin or even Chi-Chi, they're obviously for teams that are focused on off-field DPS. And even if you make more off-field DPSers, players will just likely add them to their teams that already use an on-field DPSer as well anyway, unless you're gonna force players to need an on-field healer, which I don't think you should do that. However, that technically would work, as you see Florina force people to need a healer. Despite that most people whined about it, everyone still now uses one with her. Also, I think you should stop making characters that outdo other characters in their class. As sure, we will most likely want them and perhaps even get them, but it also retires most if not all of the others in their class. And therefore, why would anyone wish on them in the future? Also, even when it comes to DPSers, is it just about power creeping every time the next one comes out? That's kinda lame. That might boost sales every time a stronger character comes out, but it likely means no sales at all for the older ones of that type from now on. So perhaps you shouldn't keep doing that, but instead make each character more unique somehow. Even if all 5-star characters have the same DPS ceiling, if they go about it in different ways, they might all always be something that people are still willing to wish on. As for healers, you kind of messed up in teams that characters like Shallonen and Escoffier can be in. There is like no reason in the minds of most to ever choose other characters over them in the teams they work in, right? Why would anyone do that? So why would anyone wish for others? I think if you want to make the other healers and buffers desirable again, you're going to have to add more to their kits. Because if you just add new characters that need them, then only people that want these new characters are gonna get these other characters that they also need as well. You should focus more on making each character as desirable to as many people as possible, as then you'll see more sales for each, even long after newer characters of that same type have come out. As for what you can do to make healers more desirable besides adding more to their kits, is if the game actually needed them. For instance, just being near an Abyss Hound drains our health, right? Because of this, I always assumed that one day when we go deep, like really deep into the Abyss, even just being there would start draining our health, making healers not only wanted or comfortable, but mandatory. Also, if you could make endgame content that isn't just about how much damage you can do in as little time as possible, but perhaps how long you can last versus endless waves of Abyss that keep scaling in power. No time limit, just pure survival. Therefore, pure DPS teams will not last as long, so I guarantee you, we will then use healers. And characters like Chi-Chi, as she can res the full party at like C6, would be very desirable. Another way you can make healers more desirable is if in multiplayer we needed them as well. Like in other MMORPGs, you go into dungeons and raids with a full party. Everyone knows their role and everyone's role is needed and important. Going in without a healer because everybody wants the DPS, that's not just the odds that everyone's going to die. It is a fact that everyone will die. Another thing you could do, but I'm not saying you should go this far, unless you guys are gonna update the combat a bit. For instance, in most games, healers have like a fast weak heal and a charged strong heal, both for single target heals and AoE heals. Also cleanses, resurrections, and sometimes buffs and debuffs. It would be cool if Genshin ever gets there, however how the game is at the moment, that's not really needed. However, the very point of this video is, Genshin is wondering why most people aren't getting healers or using healers, right? And it's because how the game is at the moment, we don't really need them mostly. But if you change the game a bit so that we do, it might very well then lead to us wanting some of this stuff that normal healer kits have in all our healers. As for me, I come from old school MMORPGs, so it feels odd to me to not have a healer in each one of my teams. So I always valued healers and always expected us to one day truly need them. Noelle, Chi-Chi, Yao Yao. Also, I was gonna get Suijun as well, but her release timing killed her chances of getting wished on, sadly. And now with characters like Xiaolonen and Excafe and likely others to come out like them, my god, I really feel bad. Some characters have just been completely retired because of this. So like I said, Genshin, these are my views as to why your healers aren't wished for and used as much as other characters, and what actions you could possibly do to address them. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, and hope to see you next time.